Thanks mostly to Ryan's quick action, his wife Jill was able to cling to life. But it wasn't enough to prevent him from having to make a truly difficult decision. Join me as I find out how Ryan made it through the dark days and ultimately to what he and others now call the miracle. I'll also talk with Jill's doctor, who was in search of medical answers. Miracle or medical cure? The event has clearly affected the lives of this couple. This is Jill Finelys, celebrating her 32nd birthday. If you talk with her family, they'd probably tell you seeing Jill walk on her birthday is a miracle. I sat down with Jill's husband Ryan to learn more about the events that almost took Jill's life. Ryan, your life changed big time on May 26th.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
May 26th, I woke up at 7:19 in the morning. I remember I looked over at the clock and I went to wake Jill up, which is a miracle in itself because I never ever do that on Saturday morning. And I went to wake her up and she wasn't breathing, she wasn't responsive. And I went from talking to her to yelling at her to shaking her, and I realized she wasn't breathing, she wasn't responsive at all.
So what'd you do then?
I remember saying, I'm calling 911. I said that out loud, and I picked up the phone. I dialed 911, and I pulled her down on the floor, and I started CPR. And I did CPR for, it seemed like forever. It seemed like hours. Come to find out it was about 15, 16, 17 minutes. And until the paramedics got here, and they took over from there. I followed her to the Oklahoma Heart Hospital in my truck, and they took her to the ER and worked on her for around 20, 25 minutes to get her stable enough where they could actually start try to help her with things like the big chill and things like that.
On May 26, 2007, Jill went into cardiac arrest. She was rushed to the Oklahoma Heart Hospital, where she underwent hypothermic protocol, also known as the big chill. I talked with Jill's cardiologist, Dr. Scheffler, to learn more.
All of our patients who come in with cardiac arrest, we started a hypothermic protocol in 2003. Basically, it's an induced hypothermia where we chill your body temperature down to about 33 degrees Celsius. They're supported on a ventilator, paralyzed and sedated so that you can't shiver to generate body heat. And you basically chill the body and, more importantly, the brain for about 24 to 36 hours.
And what's the purpose for this?
The purpose of that's to hopefully improve neurologic function after the arrest. There's a variety of inflammatory mediators and stresses that occur to the brain during that reperfusion from these arrests that do bad things to the brain itself. And so by cooling that down, slowing those processes down, it's been shown that people do better with neurologic function.
So you kind of put the brain on hold so it can get past this crisis?
Kind of cool it down and slow it down and support everything in the meantime, and in hopes that you'll improve their neurologic function.
So what did this do for Jill?
Initially nothing. We did the usual hypothermic protocol for about 24 hours, let her warm back up, supported her on a ventilator, and did a few things with her blood pressure and heart rate during that time. But neurologically, you really didn't see a whole lot of improvement.
What was running through your mind, Ryan, during that time when they were working on it?
The doctor told me, the emergency room doctor, I'll never forget what he said. He came in and was explaining to me what he felt had happened to her. And at this point, my head's going in so many different directions. I can't really tell you exactly what he was saying, but I remember the last thing he told me before he walked back in to work on Jill some more was, if you believe in this sort of thing, you need to start praying, is exactly what he told me. When a doctor tells you you need to start praying, I feel it's about as serious as it's gonna get.
So did you?
Oh yeah.
What were the emotions going through you?
My emotions were disbelief, shock. I couldn't believe that at 31 years old I wake up and my wife's not breathing. She's 31 years old at the time. It's just something that you never expect at this age.
The days passed and Jill showed no sign of improvement, but her family didn't give up hope, and Ryan stayed by her side each day waiting for a miracle.
Facing life.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
Facing life. Facing life.
At the age of 31, Jill Finelys suffered cardiac arrest, leaving her in a coma. I asked her husband Ryan how he coped with this sudden crisis in his life. What was an average day like for you while she lay there?
I'd wake up and it just went by so fast. We had so many visitors, family and friends that would come up, and Jill's cousin came to me and he actually brought his Bible, and it was, I believe it was the third day that Jill was in the hospital, and he asked if it was okay if you read from it to Jill in the room, and I said, yeah, that'd be fine. And he read and read. He just stood in the corner and read for probably over an hour.
Reading out loud?
Reading out loud. And before he left, he asked me if he'd leave it for me if I would be interested in reading some of the passages that he had read. And I said, yeah. And so I started to read, and I read and read and read. And 20 minutes turned into an hour a day, and then an hour turned into a couple hours a day. And it just went from there.
How did you come to the conclusion that God was taking her home?
It was Wednesday. It was a Wednesday, I remember that. And I decided to come home for the first time. That would be 11 days after she went into the hospital. And I decided to come home one afternoon. I just kind of wanted to be by myself, so I went outside and I was walking around in the yard, just doing the things that me and Jill would do together, kind of clean up the yard and things like that. And I can't really explain it in words, but something just came over me. It was like a calm sense, a calm, cool feeling came over me, and just said, it's gonna be okay. Let her go, it's gonna be okay. And so I did. So I stayed home that day, and I thought about it, and I slept on it. And the next morning I came into the hospital, and that's when she began, her coughing was just, it was horrible. at this point we were constantly having to suction her, and she was deteriorating. You could see it. She was going downhill, and I just made the decision to remove her from life support and put her on hospice care.
During the weeks that Jill was in the hospital, Ryan kept a journal. I asked him to read his entry from June 9th, the day Jill was taken off of life support.
She began to mumble tonight. She's done it a little bit. Dear God, please tell me I made the correct decision. The doctors and nurses explained it to me like this. Her brain is like a puzzle, and due to the injury, you take different pieces of that puzzle and throw them away forever. But due to the body's way of fighting, it still moves, mumbles, or jerks around, does things that it hasn't done previously. That's the scientific doctor's explanation, but we all know there are things in this world that nobody can explain. As bad as that feels to hear my wife speaking while she's in this limbo, it hurts worse to think, what if she's coming out of this state? There isn't a day that will go by for as long as I live that I won't second guess myself.
When we return,
The nurse came out and said, I think you need to come in. She's talking.
Facing life. Facing life. Facing life.
it had been 14 days since Jill Finley went into a coma from cardiac arrest. Her husband Ryan then made the hardest decision of his life, to take Jill off life support. 5 hours later, Jill became restless, which was very difficult for Ryan to deal with.
I couldn't stand to hear her talking like that. My parents stayed in the room with her, along with a nurse, and I was out in the waiting area for probably 30 to 45 minutes, and the nurse came out and said, I think you need to come in. She's talking. And I looked at her. I remember I said, what do you mean she's talking? And she said, she's talking. And I said, okay. I sat there for a few more minutes. My mom came out and said, I think you need to come see Jill. I said, okay. So I got up. I really didn't want to go in that room. I really didn't.
What did you think you'd see?
I thought it was going to be Jill's last moments. I thought she was going very shortly after that. I walked in, and Jill, she was talking. First thing she said was, get me out of here. I want to go home. Get me out of here, I want to go home. She kept telling me that.
And at that point, you probably knew it wasn't just mumbling, right?
Right, at that point, it started getting my hopes up. I was still careful not to get very excited about this, but I was smiling on the inside, I'll say that. And then I started asking her questions.
Hey, baby.
What's that?
Not much. Hey, do you know what our dog's name is? God. Do you know what our cat's name is?
Gracie.
Very good. That's right, honey. Can you feel me holding your hand?
I'd ask her what our phone number was, what our dogs' names were, our cat's name, our address. I asked her simple addition, what 5 plus 5, 2 plus 2, things like that. I'd ask her that, and she got them all correct. When she got them all correct, I knew I think something's happening. I think she's coming around.
Well, she made an unusual request, I understand.
Yes, she did. She told me that she was ready to go to Ted's and eat, which is her favorite Mexican food restaurant.
Jill's room was decorated with photo collages made by her friends and family. She was constantly surrounded by loved ones. So, did this play a part in her recovery? What role, according to your medical opinion, does communication have with a patient in Jill's case?
I don't think anybody knows for sure scientifically. You do see some anecdotal reports of people being aware of what's going on. In her case, I don't recall that she mentioned anything about specifics. She's kind of blanked the whole episode, which I think is fine, but you know, can't hurt. I know in Jill's case, her husband was reading the Bible to her on a daily basis, and I think that's great, not only for him, but it may have some effect on her.
Now, is there anything you'd point to specifically, or is it a combination of things that was resultant of her survival?
The only things I could comment on would be the hypothermic protocol that we know does improve survival. As far as the rest of it, you know, it was her, and she recovered, and I don't really know why else she would have. I don't know why it would have taken that long for her to show that dramatic improvement.
Now, under normal circumstances, what length of period would have it been on an average for somebody to recover if they were going to?
We usually see something about 48 to 72 hours afterwards.
How many patients usually survive that laid out? Do you have any idea?
1 to 2% that will have a functional recovery, neurologic recovery. So that's what we know after 48 to 72 hours, and I would assume that diminishes over time as well. So in her case, I'd put it less than that.
So she really beat the odds,
Yeah.
didn't she?
Yeah.
Jill Finley woke up from a 14-day coma, a surprise awakening that shocked the hospital staff and her family. What were you thinking when you woke up? What was going through your mind?
When I first woke up, I really wasn't conscious of what was going on around. And really the only thing I remember about the heart hospital was the big shower that they wheeled me into every day. But other than that, I don't remember anything at the heart hospital. I don't remember ICU, I don't remember anything.
What was your first memory of Ryan?
The first memory that I remember is him walking into my therapy room and I seeing him, and it was the best feeling ever. It was like I had been gone for a long time.
You had been.
Yeah, I know. But that's really the first time that I can remember, like, remembering things.
Now, is there any precautions you have to take regarding your heart?
They decided to go ahead and put a pacemaker / defibrillator right in my chest. So I have that now. So if anything is to ever happen like this again, it will shock my heart back into rhythm. And then I would just go directly to the hospital, but I would never go into like cardiac arrest or anything again.
Do you know if that's been used yet since your recovery?
It hasn't. They said that that it shocks me, and so I know when it shocks. They say people think all the time that it's gone off, but you know when it goes off, and it hasn't gone off yet.
Can either one of you explain to me why Jill came out of this alive?
God, divine intervention. I honestly feel that way. People can give me other explanations or theories, and I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong, but I'm not going to say that they're right either. I honestly feel that prayer and God brought her back.
We had so many people praying for me. I mean, just tons of different churches and family and friends. And God, He just answered the prayers. I honestly do believe that God answered the prayers that were being cried to Him.
When we return, Ryan describes his new tattoo dedicated to Jill's recovery.
Facing life.
Thank you for inviting us into your home. Each week we feature real people who deal with real life issues head on. Some of their experiences are uplifting, while others will break your heart. But in the end, the message is clear. Those who follow biblical principles on the issues of life are blessed. Become a partner with us in providing a positive, life-affirming message to help change the way the next generation values innocent human life. Please consider a generous gift to help offset the costs of producing this important quality programming. You can donate on our secure website at facinglife.tv or by calling the phone number on your screen during normal business hours. Together, we can make a real difference for life.
Facing life. Facing life.
Jill Finley suffered cardiac arrest on May 26, 2007, which put her into a coma. After 14 days, something happened, which doctors said would have a very slim chance of occurring. She woke up. Since then, Ryan and Jill have a new outlook on life together. So how has this affected you as a couple?
We get along a lot better now.
Not that we didn't get along before.
No.
It's brought life to a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
You know, we look at every day so much differently now. Each day before, like Ryan would go on the weekends and stuff and do his own thing, and I would go with my friends and do my own thing, you know.